So you have a pilot's license and you already can fly an aircraft on land. But did you know that you could get your float rating and open up a whole new world of flying in just 3 days or even faster? Is that even possible? Yes, for a fact I know that is possible because I just did my float rating in just 3 days. Now it's Caleb here from Air 101 and I'm going to bring you along with me on my 3 days of float plane flying journey so that you can see the whole process and understand how easy it is to get your float rating. So if you want to get your float rating in 3 days, I highly recommend that you book 3 whole days on the online schedule of the float plane operation that you're planning on doing your training at. So that is what I did. I booked from 9 a.m. till 4 p.m. each day for 3 days. Now let's get to my float rating. Day 1. I arrived at Fort Langley Air and I was super excited to get going, and to be honest, a little bit nervous as well. I was thinking to myself, what happens if I dig a float? Or what if I find out that float plane flying is too hard for me? Well, all that nervousness went away as soon as I met my float plane instructor and we started to do the ground school session together. He was super calm and he explained all the things that I needed to know to get my float rating, such as that the float plane rating consists of 7 hours of training, which includes a minimum of 5 hours dual instruction and a minimum of 5 solo takeoffs and landings. With float plane flying, usually you don't have a physical checklist, so we went over the verbal checklist that we would use when we're flying the aircraft, such as scamphers, or however you say it, switches, carb heat, area, mixture, propeller, flaps, rudder, and stick. We went over the float design, how to water taxi, how to read the winds, how to use a constant speed prop, how to do crosswind landings and glassy water landings, etc. The ground school took about an hour and a half and then we were on our way. We used the beaching gear to get the aircraft out of the hangar and then we brought the aircraft out to the river. We put on our life jackets, hopped into the aircraft and started it. We had to sit a while to let the engine warm up. Now we also taxied in the water for a little bit just so that I could get comfortable with the water rudder. We did the normal run up, 1700 RPM, left mag, both, right mag, both, suction good, pitch out and in 3 times, and then carby hot and idle, etc. Now we were ready to take off. Now with regards to float plane flying, in order to get off the water, you have to do a couple of things. Like normal, you do full power, gauges are green, airspeed is alive. But unlike flying on land, this is where things get a little bit different. When you get going, you'll see the aircraft rise once, then it will rise again, and at this point you will lower the nose. At this point, this is where you'll have the takeoff attitude. Also, you'll need a lot of right rudder to stay straight, and instead of saying rotate, I would just personally say glide off because that is all you do at this point. You just allow the aircraft to do its thing, and then we glided right off of the water. Now we went out to the practice area, and like always when flying a new aircraft, I like to just get used to it first. Doing turns, climbs and descents, getting used to the constant speed prop, etc. Now that we finished that, we went on and did our first landing. Yes, that quick. It was so awesome. We slowed down the plane using the method he taught me in ground school for landing, pulling the throttle out and then watching the manifold pressure. We went to 18 inches, then 15 inches, and then we did carby hot, and then we did 12 inches of manifold pressure. We also used 10-degree flaps, 20-degree flaps, and then kept it at 80 miles per hour. And then we came down and used the same attitude that we used for takeoff. And then we used a quality that is very important to float plane flying: patience, patience, and more patience. Once again, we allowed the aircraft to do its thing and land in the water. We went on to do something called skipping stones, where we did a lot of takeoffs and landings in a row. We would land, then take off, climb to 300 feet, then come in and land, and then take off again. Hence the name. It is very much like skipping stones, but yet we were doing it with an aircraft. We practiced docking the aircraft, which was super cool and easy, which allowed us to go for lunch in Harrison. Yep, we had pork schnitzel burgers while sitting at the dock. After that, we went to Fire Lake, an absolutely beautiful lake at the top of a mountain north of Harrison. We practiced how to pop the aircraft off the water by going from 20-degree flaps to 30-degree flaps, which was super handy, especially because we were at a higher altitude and it took a little longer to get off the water. This was a great technique and really helped us out. After this, we returned back to Pitt Meadows Airport and finished our day with a total flight time of 4.1 hours. Now, like every pilot, as soon as I got out of the aircraft, all I could think about was hopping right back into the aircraft. No worries though, because I'd already booked the next day to go flying again. Day 2, I woke up that morning and all I could think about once again was hopping right back into the float plane. The weather started off not too bad, but it definitely started to get a little windy, which I didn't mind because I wanted to fly in some tougher conditions. We took off and went to the lake. We did a couple of landings and practiced doing circuits. Then we found a little dock. Then Tom, my float plane instructor, says to me, "Now it is your turn to do your 5 solo takeoffs and landings all by yourself." I honestly wasn't expecting that so soon. We had only flown for a total of 5 hours, but I guess he trusted me maybe more than I trusted myself. Anyways, I pushed off the dock, started the aircraft, and I was on my way.
Okay, here we go for my first solo. Let's see how this goes.
1 circuit, 2 circuits.
3 more to go. I know I look very serious right now because I'm concentrating on not destroying this aircraft. Definitely like doing my first solo again. I'm so excited to be able to do this. I just can't believe he let me go. Trust me enough, and I really appreciate that.
3 circuits, 4 circuits, 5 circuits, and I was done. I came in for a landing and I picked up my float plane instructor. I had now completed my 5 solo takeoffs and landings, which of course was part of doing the float plane rating. Then we went and did more skipping and practiced landing with 30-degree flaps, crosswind landings, glassy water landings, and we even got to practice float rolls. This is where you lift one float off the water to create less drag so that you can get off the water faster. After that, we completed our float training for the day and made it back to Pitt Meadows a little earlier than expected because the weather was deteriorating more and more. We managed to get in 2.6 hours that day, which totaled my float time to 6.7 hours. Now, I could have just finished my 0.3 of an hour and finished my float plane training, but I wasn't done just yet. I really wanted to go on a longer flight so that I could practice more takeoffs and landings just to be on the safe side. So we decided to go to a place called Chatterbox Falls. I'm so glad that I booked the 3rd day because not only did it give me more float plane flying experience, but it also gave me a day that I would never forget. Let me show you why. Day 3, Chatterbox Falls. Now that we had done all the exercises, I wanted to bring my wife with me and go and do a beautiful flight out to Chatterbox Falls. As you can see on the map here, Chatterbox Falls is up the inlet on the west coast of British Columbia. Chatterbox Falls is one of the most beautiful places in the whole world. We started the day by taxiing over to the dock to get my wife and also practicing more docking. Always a good thing to do. Then we took off and headed first to Seashell Inlet to practice a landing, docking, and a takeoff.
Pitt Ground Cessna 180 float plane on the water, Golf Juliet, Quebec Delta. Requesting instructions for westbound slide to westbound departure with information shortly.
Golf Juliet, Quebec Delta, Pitt Ground, altimeter 3014. Taxi on the water at your discretion. Squawk 5547.
Pitt Tower, Juliet, Quebec Delta, ready for takeoff.
Juliet, Quebec Delta Tower, cleared westbound, not above 500 feet till you're at Douglas Island. Take off the water at your discretion.
Juliet, Quebec Delta. Thanks.
Your Foxtrot Tower, do you have the airport in sight? It's about 11 o'clock and 4 miles.
Speed is alive.
200, request transit back to Bobby Bay. Foxtrot, Pop Mike Echo, Pitt Tower, squawk
Okay,
identical,
second rise.
3014, clear
Lower the
southbound,
nose.
maintain 2,000 feet while you're in the zone.
Slide off.
Romeo Echo, India Tower, left-hand circuit, clear for takeoff, runway 26 left.
Now, I actually grew up in Seashell right next to that inlet, and when I was young, I remember watching planes take off and land on the water, and I always thought to myself that one day I hope I would have the opportunity to be able to land a float plane there. And you know what? My dream has now been fulfilled. We had a brief snack and now we are on our way to Chatterbox Falls. We went up to Seashell Inlet to Jervis Inlet. We saw the really cool Skookumchuck Rapids at the Skookumchuck Narrows there. It's really cool to see them at 500 feet in the air. Then we made it all the way to Princess Louisa Inlet. You make a small right in the inlet and then it opens up to the most picturesque spot with the grand mountains and a majestic waterfall. This is where I practiced our second to last docking exercise. So as we came in, we taxied at idle, and as we got closer to the dock, we put carb heat on to slow the plane a little more. And then as we got really close, we turned the mags to only 1 mag to slow the plane down even more. And once we know that we had made it, we turned off the prop and just floated our way in. I made sure to have my headset off, door open, and seatbelt off so that I can be ready to jump out of the aircraft and onto the dock. Here we made it to Chatterbox Falls. Honestly, this is one of the best days of my life. I not only get to fly a float plane into a beautiful spot, but I also get to share this with my wonderful wife. Now, before we head back to Pitt Meadows Airport together, I just have to say that this video is sponsored by Fort Langley Air. But although this video is sponsored by them, I just want to tell you personally why you should do your float rating with them. They are a great company and they have been in business for many decades. They know everything about float plane flying and have helped thousands of pilots get their float plane rating and started many float plane pilots' careers. Their aircraft, as you can see here, are in fantastic condition. I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to be able to do my float rating with them. But you know what? One of my biggest regrets is this: not doing my float rating sooner. So don't make the same mistake as me. Go do your float rating. You can find their contact information in the notes section of the video. Now back to my float plane journey. We ended up flying out and doing a touch and go and practicing a glassy water landing at a place called Ruby Lake. And then we worked our way back to Pitt Meadows Airport. As we were coming back, I was thinking to myself, I realized my time is coming to an end for these 3 days of float plane flying. And boy, they have been 3 fantastic days. Flying to Pitt Lake, Harrison, Fire Lake, Seashell Inlet, and so on. I got to take off and land on the water, skipping on the water, water taxi, dock at many different places. I got to fly the Cessna 180 float plane all by myself. I got to make great friendships with those float plane instructors at Fort Langley Air, Andy Blacker, Tegan Owens, and Tom Weston. And I got to bring my wife to one of the most beautiful places in the whole world, Chatterbox Falls. I got to do all of this because I decided to take the time out of my busy schedule and do something I really wanted to do, get my float rating. But now on the other hand, I was also getting a little worried since I don't have a float plane. I won't be able to keep getting the opportunity to fly on floats. So at this point, I decided I was going to sign up for the 50 hours bush pilot training course. I know overall it will make me a better pilot, but it will also allow me to continue to do the thing that I now love to do, float plane flying. So thanks for sticking around because now I get to tell you the reason why I wanted to make the point of doing my float rating in just 3 days. I wanted to show you that no matter where you live in Canada, whether it is in the prairies, up north, or in Eastern Canada, if you have a long weekend or if you're able to take a couple days off from work and come out to beautiful British Columbia, and that is totally possible for you to do some amazing float plane flying and return home with a shiny new float plane rating and start your float plane journey just like I did. Now is the time more than ever to have no regrets. Have fun float plane flying, stay safe, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.